Everyone. We have a special show today. We are going to conclude. We've been studying the history of mortgages, and we're going to bring up what are the conclusions about why is it important to study the history of mortgages. I mean, something that is so common, we believe it's been around forever. The self-amortizing mortgage. What is the history behind that? And getting the, wait a minute, the self-amortizing fixed rate mortgage. Did you know the United States leads the world in fixed rate mortgages? The rest of the world sees fixed rate mortgages as too risky, meaning that if I sell you a mortgage at a certain rate and now the rates go up, I'm not making as much money as I should be as a lender, and I don't like that. That's too risky. So what is it about the fixed rate self-amortizing mortgage that makes this thing so powerful that banks are involved, mortgage companies are involved, and investors in mortgage-backed securities are involved, investors that you've never heard of, investors that may actually own your mortgage, even though you pay Chase or Wells Fargo or Regions or whatever the bank or mortgage company you're paying. An investor most likely owns that mortgage now. Oh my goodness. You got to find out what is going on with this system that so much money is being made. And I'm talking about trillions of dollars are being made from the interest on these mortgages. And the very people who are paying the interest have no idea how the mortgage actually works. Oh, we're going to listen. I want to get this out here before I forget, Kurt, because on Friday, we've been teaching this thing for 18 years. And on Friday, we're going to have some people in here on the show who are going to tell their story about how the P.I.L.L method has helped them to understand how mortgages and other loans actually work and how they can cut their interest cost by 75%, meaning we can set this thing up so that you can pay a lot less interest, pay off all of your debts faster and cheaper without giving the bank all of this interest. The very thing that we need to know is not how to get a loan only. There's a lot of information being given out, ladies and gentlemen, on how to get a loan, but practically no information on how to pay it back. Practically no information on how to pay it back. Have you ever had a class on this? Have you ever understood what's really going on behind the scenes? Were you taught in high school or in college or even sat down with a family member who knows how this works? There's a lot of information out there, but nothing that actually teaches you the numbers as to how it actually works and why it came into being in the first place. So if you want to know, listen, we got some people in here. Joan Kaywood says, pay on principle. Okay. Joan, that is, I'm sorry. Is it Joan or Joanne? All right. It looks like Joanne. I'm sorry. Looks like Joanne. She says pay on principle. Well, yes, you're right. You can do that. And that's what we've been taught. But paying on principle is not where we should be focusing, Joanne. Where we should be focusing is how much interest does it cost to manage the loan, not the interest rate, but how much interest does it cost to manage the loan? And the cost is way too high once you understand it. If you want to see some of these numbers, now I'm going to go back over the history, but we're going to start with looking at the numbers on how much it costs to manage your loan. That's where we're going to start today. So we're going to put some things on the screen. If you want to see these numbers, go to YouTube. All right, go to YouTube right now, search P.I.L.L method, and you can look on your secondary device. You may have a laptop, you may have a tablet or a second phone, but make sure you go to YouTube. You want to see what it really costs to manage a loan, even though you have a payment you can afford. All right, and we're going to study. We're going to study we're going to study where it all began and why it began and how it began and how everybody that's making money understands it, but practically no one who pays the money understands it, because if you did, they wouldn't make as much money and you could pay off all of your debt in about 7 years. Because now you understand what's going on. All right. So we're going to put an amortization schedule on the screen right now. There it is. I'm going to put in $200,000 at, do you know that the interest rates went up again? So we're going to put it in at 7.75. 7.75 for 360-month loan. Okay, so here's what we're being told, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to see this. I need you to focus in on this and make this very clear. You can't build a house without nails. You've got to have a firm foundation or the house is going to crumble. Okay, you have to have a good foundation on any building. That's very important. And most people, at least in my neighborhood, and probably in your neighborhood, did not pay cash for your house. You borrowed the money. And all you were ever taught to be concerned about was, what is my credit score? What is my ability to pay back the loan? How can I get qualified for this 30-year mortgage so I can provide shelter for my family and get the best interest rate I can? This is what's being taught. Get a good credit score, get a low interest rate, and that's the end of it. And then when you take a look at that, you say, this is a payment I can afford. Why? Because the payment itself is probably lower than the amount of rent you would pay for a comparable house. That's what we're being told. If you can pay rent, you can pay a mortgage. And the reason why you want to get a mortgage is because you know what your payment is going to be on that mortgage, and it remains constant. If you're renting, the rent can go up, up, up every time you have to you see, that's why you get a lease, so that when the market changes or shifts, the landlord can say, you know, since my expenses are going up, I have to raise the rent. But when you get a mortgage, that amount of money is constant. So if you get a mortgage for $200,000 at 7.75 and the payment is $1,432.82, it will be that until you either pay off the loan or refinance it. That payment will not change. The only thing that can change is how much, if your taxes go up, that is something you can't control. Okay. So your taxes may increase or your homeowner's insurance may increase, but the principal and interest on your loan cannot increase once you have it. But if you have a payment of $1,432.82, that may be something you can afford, but it is expensive to maintain because of how amortization schedules work. I need to show you, even at 7.75, if you have a $200,000 mortgage, why is it that the bank wants $315,815 in interest on a $200,000 loan? You see, Joanne, when we have this, okay, when we have this going on, $200,000, and you think you're paying 7% on this, you're not paying 7% on it, because 315,000 is not 7% of 200,000. No way, no how. Here's what the real number is when you take a look over to the left. 157%, almost 158% is what you're going to. Here's what it says. Total interest paid as a percentage of the principal borrowed, you're going to pay back 157%, almost 158% of what you borrowed. How can that be legal? And they get to tell us it's 7.75. Where did this come from? Who gets supported by this? Who gets paid by that? All right. So if you want, JB, can you put the YouTube link up top, please? Yeah, I can put it up top. So, but it's just as easy. It's just as easy if you go to YouTube, search for P.I.L.L method, and you could go there. All right. I'd have to stop what I'm doing to put that up there. So JB, if you could do that for me, please. Go to YouTube, search for P.I.L.L method, and you'll see the live. And if you could put the link in the chat, that would be lovely. I'd appreciate that very much, so you could see the numbers. Okay. Or maybe, Kurt could do it. But if somebody could do that for me, that would be great. That way I can keep going here and do what I need to do. All right. So here's what we're saying, folks. I need you to see payment number one on this. Okay. Payment number one. Payment number one is I have $141 out of that payment going to principal. $1,291.67 goes to interest. Somebody set this up so that I can get a payment that I can afford, but somebody's making a heck of a lot of money on this deal. That is a lot of money in interest to pay each month. Every month you make a payment, you pay a little more principal and a little less interest every single month. But in the first year on this loan, you pay it down by how much of your money goes to pay down the loan? Only $1,755.31. That's how much money goes to pay down the loan. How much money goes to interest? $15,438. Joanne, what do y'all think? Kim, what does that sound like to you? I'm paying my hard-earned money on this mortgage, and only $1,755 goes to principal, but $15,438 goes to interest in the first year. Somebody is making a lot of money on my mortgage because I don't understand how the whole thing works. It is the most inefficient way I know of to pay for something. When I say inefficient, I want to know how much of my payment actually works for me. Okay. When you do the math, the way this thing is set up is with a formula for amortization. The formula is, here's how we're supposed to look at it. Here's how we're taught to look at it. If you learn anything, you get a payment you can afford, so that by the time at the end of your term, you will owe nothing. All right. And you've paid off your house. but all of the money has been paid back. But because we're providing a service, we need to charge you something for providing the service, and that's where the interest comes in. But folks, the formula that has been created to help us to understand this, to help us to get that payment that we can afford, doesn't have to be constructed this way. It could be constructed so that you could pay a lot less interest, but it's not. And the reason why it hasn't changed is because no one understands it. So if I do the math here, I'm going to put the math on the screen. All right. We're going to put a calculator on the screen. So make sure you go to YouTube, watch what we're doing here. Watch what we're doing. And we have $1,291.67. Here's some of the conclusions we want to come to. All right. Somebody's making money, and it ain't us. $1,291.67 is the first interest payment, but the total mortgage payment, the total payment that I have to make every month, is $1,432.82. So if you divide the first interest payment by the total loan payment, $1,432.82 equals 90%. 90% of your payment goes to interest, and only 10% of your payment goes to pay down the loan. So Melinda, Joanne, Kim, and anybody else who's watching this, I need you to listen. I need to start inviting some people in here because they need to see this. They need to see this. Let's share it. Share the room out there so other people can get in here. And so Joanne, it's been real. Gotta log into work. Okay, thank you. But watch the replay. Okay, watch the replay on YouTube. Thank you for being here. All right. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you take a look at this thing, that is way too much money going to principal. Why don't we learn how this works so that we can pay a lot less interest? Well, how do they figure that out? How is the interest being paid each month? Here are some of the conclusions. You need to know how they figure the interest. In that formula, it is designed so that you take 1/12 of the interest rate. So the interest rate is 7.75. And if we hit the percent key, we get to see what that looks like as a percentage. It's 0.0775. 0.0775. And then this formula says that we should divide this number by 12. Okay, so when we divide it by 12, equals this 0.006458 and a bunch of threes. They take this number and multiply it by the balance. And the first balance is $200,000. So we're going to multiply this by this number, 1/12 of the interest rate, and multiply it by 200,000. Okay, equals $1,291.67, and there it is, $1,291.67. So they take 1/12 of the interest rate each month. So each month, when you pay your mortgage, only a small amount goes to principal, but a huge amount goes to interest. But next month, you have a brand new amount that you owe. And in this case, it would be $199,850 58.85. That's the brand new amount that you owe. That's your new mortgage amount. So what happens the next month? They take that same number, 1/12 of your interest rate, and multiply it by this number because it's your brand new mortgage. Here's your brand new mortgage. You paid down some, and now you have a new mortgage amount, 199,858.85. And so you multiply that by 1/12 of the interest rate, and now your interest that you pay is $1,290.76. That's your new mortgage amount. So when you pay $142.06 to principal, now what you owe is $199,716.79 on line 2. And guess what they do again? Multiply by 1/12 of the interest rate again and again and again. And folks, this is probably the first time you've heard that it's not just one mortgage. It's not a $200,000 mortgage. The first month is $200,000. The second month is a new mortgage of $199,858. The third month is $199,716. The fourth month is $199,753. So each month is a brand new mortgage, and they get to charge you again 1/12 of the interest rate. That's what makes this thing so huge. So you're paying $15,000 in interest the first year because they get to charge you 12 different times to pay your loan down by $1,755.31. And no one is telling you how the thing works. So anybody here want to know how it works? Okay, go ahead and put it in the chat. Put it in the comment section. All right. If you're watching us online, put it in the comment section if you want to see, because we're drawing the conclusions here on why this thing is this way. And we're going to go back. I'm going to recap the history, but I wanted to start here with showing you how expensive it is, and we are not benefiting. So if you want to know how not to pay the interest, put a number 9 in the chat, put a number 9 in the comment section. If you're watching us online, put a number 9 in if you want to see how not to do this. And this is why when I go over the history, you're going to see why you're not being taught how this works. Because there's a lot of money to be made once you know how. All right. Is there anybody who wants to know how not to do that? Go to the chat and put in, I don't want to pay that money. Put it into the chat. Okay. Go ahead and start. And if you want to see how not to do that. All right. I'm not seeing any comments here. I'm not seeing any comments. I guess everybody's okay with paying that kind of money. I guess everybody's okay with that. Let me invite a few more people in. All right. Let's invite a few more people in to what's going on here. All right. I'm going to stop for a minute. We got to get a few more people in. So let me go here and click on invite. All right. All right. Ooh, look at there. Is everyone okay with paying that kind of money? All right. So we're going to invite some people. All right. And invite some more people. All right. There we go. We're going to invite. There we go. Invite. Keep inviting some folks. All right. Let's get that out. All right. So we just invited a few more people to come in. We're going to invite her. All right. We're going to invite her. Invite him. All right. Invited. All right. Invite a few more people in. Because we need to go over what is the end result of all of this. The end result is this, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you that are watching online. The end result is this. There are millions of mortgages out there, and we believe that the mortgage industry is there to provide a service for us as home buyers. It's there to provide a service for us. So when inflation hit 9% last year, and one of the things that they put the news focused in on is how much did it cost for a dozen eggs? Okay. Did you see where eggs went up to $6, $7, $9, $10 for a dozen eggs? Almost $1 an egg. You're outraged. You would be outraged at that. If eggs cost that much money, okay? So here's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. We should not have to pay in a way that it costs 90% of our payment goes to interest, while only a small amount of money goes to principal, because we have not been taught how it works. And because there's nobody complaining about it, nothing is going to get done about it. I'm not saying that's the way to handle it. I'm saying the way to handle it is with education. Know why it is, know how it is, and then you can understand how not to do it. So if I make them, so if they're charging me each time there's a new balance, all I have to do is control the balance. How much am I actually paying on? So if they can charge me $1,200 to give them $141.15, and the next month I'm going to pay $142.06, and they're going to charge me $1,290 because of how it works. What if I gave them the $142 not when they want it, but when I wanted to pay it? I am now in control of how and when I give the bank the money I borrowed. When I let the bank be in control, when I do this according to their timing, it costs over $1,200 each time I give them money. $1,200 hard-earned dollars goes up in smoke. That's why it's so inefficient. You give them money, and most of it, 90% of it, does not do what you want it to do. It doesn't pay down the house. It goes to build somebody else's house. Ladies and gentlemen, is that what you want? This is how this thing has been set up. So if I give them the $142.06 early, I don't have to give them this $1,290.76. I compress the amortization schedule, and my next payment is on line 3, because this is what I owe now. This is what I owe now. So they have to figure what I'm going to pay on this number, the $199,716 instead of the $199,858. That's how that is done. Okay? What are the conclusions? Since 1936, this thing has not been taught in schools. Since 1936, how a loan actually works has not been taught in schools. And the first amortized mortgage was in 1936. And since then, no one has been teaching how to disrupt the bank's timing and what it what it really means. In fact, so much so that even real estate investors are telling you, Don't pay off your mortgage early. Don't do anything to disrupt the bank's ability to make this kind of money. Take your money and invest it somewhere in something that you may be able to make money, but if you do, you still have to pay taxes on it. Why are professionals who are supposed to be good at this, why are professionals telling us you should not disrupt what the bank is doing? Don't give them money ahead of time. Don't take control of your mortgage. You see, the way this thing has been set up, it's set up to make a lot of money, to support the business. Invite some more people in so that they can hear this. If you're online, share this with your total community, because these are the conclusions that are being drawn. If you do this, if you do it the bank's way, just in 1 year, you pay this loan down by $1,731, $1,755.31. You're moving the loan from $200,000, where it starts, $200,000. Okay, you start at $200,000, and in 1 year you pay it down to $198,244.69. You pay it down to there, Steve. Okay, Steve, how are you doing this morning? Okay, let's invite Steve up to the stage here. So listen, you pay it down to $198,244.69 in 1 year. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
All right, yourself?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. We're drawing some conclusions here on the history of mortgages, because on Friday, when we come back, we're going to have some people on the stage that are going to tell their experience with the P.I.L.L method on Friday. That's what's happening on Friday. Okay. So we've got Carlos in here. We've got Kenny coming in. All right. So if you want to see these numbers, go to YouTube, search P.I.L.L method. Okay. Go to YouTube, search P.I.L.L method, and watch this live on a secondary device, because people need to know what is going on with these mortgages, and no one is talking about it. Nobody is teaching it. It is crazy how much they're charging us. And it all started in 1936. The very first self-amortizing mortgage, and it was a 20-year loan, was in 1936. Okay? So if you want to see this, let me go ahead and put the link in. Okay? So let me see here. There it is. We're going to copy this, and we're going to put that in the chat. Going to paste that there. That's the link to watch this live. All right. That's in the chat. And we're going to put it at the top of the screen as well, if you want to see these numbers. All right. Invite a few more people in while I'm doing this. All right. So pin the link, paste, add the link there. That's what we're doing there. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Doing my show. All right. So now that let me so I should have that at the top of the screen. That's what you can see now. That's my live show, the history of mortgages, and we're drawing the conclusions to this. All right. If you are in the audience and you have something to say about this, come to the stage, because not only are we not understanding it, but because we don't understand it, there is an education that's out there being taught, even by investors, that you should not disrupt the bank's ability to charge interest. You should not pay to try to pay off your loan faster and cheaper. It's a waste of money. In fact, they're telling you it's cheap money. You should take your money and invest it. Now, it's a technical name for that. It's called the Smith maneuver. So you don't you pay what your minimum payment on the mortgage, and if you have any extra money, invest it somewhere else that's going to make more money. Yeah, no, you don't want to do that, especially in the early years. In the early years, your money, the money that you have, even your spare change, is better off saving interest on this mortgage. So if you want to see these numbers, I'm getting ready to show you something that most people, some of the real estate investors that I've talked to, they didn't know that this was true. And some of them are still saying it's not true because they've never been taught how it actually works. The education that we're receiving keeps us in the box, keeps us on the treadmill, of paying interest our entire lives. And interest is nothing more than rent on your money. You go from renting a house to renting the money to buy the house for your entire life. Folks, rent is rent. Let's stop paying that rent. Let me show you something here if you want to see what I'm talking about. The bank is charging you monthly every time they see a new balance. Every time they see a new balance, they're charging you monthly 1/12 of the interest rate times the unpaid balance every single time. If you let them do it to you 360 times, you will pay back $315,000 on a $200,000 loan if the interest rate is 7.75. Is there anybody in here right now that wants to pay $315,000 interest on a $200,000 house? Okay, yes or no? Tell me, put it in the chat. Anybody want to pay $315,000 interest on a $200,000 house? Please put it in the chat. Yes or no? Yes or no? All right, here's some. Oh, Steve Max says no. Anybody else? April says no. I don't want to do that. Okay. April, I also saw that you want to join our house. We'll let you in after the show. So the next time you will not have your red ticket. You will be a member. Okay. So somebody is watching us online. Jeremiah Sams online says no. Day Tripper online says no. They're both watching us on YouTube. So here's what we're saying, folks. Anytime you move the loan from point A to point B, it costs you money. And if we do it the bank's way, in the first year, it will cost us $15,438.53. So let's give them something else to charge us for. Can we do that? Let's give them something else to charge us for. So I know I'm going to pay $1,755.31 in 1 year because that's all the principal payments added up. Okay. Each principal payment makes a new mortgage amount, making it a new mortgage amount to be charged. So all I have to do is take control of this whole situation and give them a different number to charge me on. So let's just say, now I'm not saying that it should be done this way. What I am saying is you need to understand how it works. And so I'm just giving examples of how it works. I have $1,755.31. I'm going to pay this loan down in 1 year. Here's my question to everybody in here. Do I have to give them that $1,700 in 12 monthly installments? Because that's how they want it. They want it in 12 monthly installments so they can charge me 12 times in the first year. Do I have to give them that $1,700 in 12 monthly installments? Steve Max says no. Okay. If I had it, could I give it to them all at one time and subtract it from what I owe? So right now I owe $200,000 on this mortgage. And every time I make a payment, about between $140 and $150 goes to principal, paying down the loan, which allows them to charge me again 12 times in the first year. Okay. And if I get them to charge me that to pay down $1,700, it's going to cost me $15,000 to do that. So what am I buying? I'm buying this, just like you buy a chair, just like you buy groceries, just like you buy gasoline. Okay. This is a commodity. The commodity you're buying is you're buying your equity back from the bank. And in 1 year, you're buying $1,700 in equity back from the bank. But what if I want to buy my equity in 1 month instead of over 12 months? I'm going to give them $1,755 in 1 month. Let's put that on the screen. I've got $200,000 that I owe. I know that by looking at an amortization schedule, I'm going to pay the loan down by $1,755.31 in 12 months. But what if I wanted to give them that in 1 month? So I'm going to subtract $1,755.31 in 1 month. I owe $198,244.69. That's the number here on line 12. So if I give them the $1,700 all at one time on line 1, the next time they get to charge me is when the bank's computers see $198,244.69. That's the next time they get to charge me. Hey, Ian Pedley is in the room. All right. Ian's all the way here. Ian is a mortgage professional in Australia, and he's in here right now. So hi. So he says hi. He's telling everybody else hi. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're doing. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. Come to the stage. I would love to be able to interact with you. So the first time they get to charge us, we owe $200,000. I give them $1,755.31 all at one time. Now I owe $198,244.69. That's the second time they get to charge me. Now look and see what happens the second time they get to charge me. So I get, I'm going to put 7.75 in my calculator again, 7.75. I'm going to hit the percent key, and that's my interest rate, 0.0775, 0.0775. I divide that by 12. I get 0.00648 and a bunch of threes. I'm going to multiply. Now they have to multiply this number by my new principal balance of $198,244.69, not the $199,716 on line 2, because I gave them the money all at once. So I'm paid down to $198,244.69. That's where I'm paid down to. That's what they have to charge me on. So when I multiply it by $198,244.69, it equals $1,280.33. Folks, that's the interest on line 13 of my amortization schedule. I drop all the way down to line 13 on my amortization schedule because I gave them the $1,755.31 all at one time. And so what does that mean? Instead of giving them $15,438.53 to pay it down to here, I just gave them $1,291. Folks, that's over a $14,000 savings to move the loan to the very same place. Has anybody ever showed you that before? I see Ingrid just came in. Ingrid, if you want to see what we're doing, please go to the link at the top on a secondary device. You can see these numbers on YouTube. Okay. So listen, what do you all think of that? What do you all think of that? Should we take control of these mortgages and student loans and credit cards, and let's learn how to give the bank back their money in a way that we control when they receive it? And in this case, by giving them as little as $1755.31 all at one time after I make my regular mortgage payment. I'm going to make my regular mortgage payment, give them the rest of the $1755.31. Okay. So here's what we're doing. We're making our regular mortgage payment. Okay. And I've already given them $141.15. So what would be the rest of the principal payment? So we have $1755.31. We've already given them $141.15. That is the first principal payment. So all I have to do is give them an extra $1,614.16. If I did that, I'm not saying you should, I'm just showing you what happens if you did. I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm just saying this is what happens when you do. If I give them an extra $1,614.16 over and above my regular mortgage payment, I'm paid down to line 12 on my schedule. And because of that, because of the math that they must perform, I'm going to make the payment on line 13, and I get to skip all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12. I never have to pay those. Over $14,000. If I don't do anything else, if I just make every other payment, the amount of interest that I have just saved is over $14,000 in interest I never have to pay the bank. So I'm just asking, ladies and gentlemen, what kind of system have we been involved in that causes this kind of thing to happen? I've got a link here. All right. This is called The American Mortgage in Historical and International Context. And this was done by some scholars at the University of Pennsylvania. And in that research, they discovered how and talk about how amortization actually got into our system. And then it went worldwide. So in 1936 was the first mortgage that was amortized. And why? Because before 1936, you couldn't get a 20-year loan. You couldn't get a 30-year loan before 1936, according to this article. All right. And we get into that where it just talks about the historical context. Now, let me, by the way, let me make sure that you guys can get this. All right. I want it. All right. So that you guys can have it. Everybody needs to read this article. All right. And it is the history. Okay. History. Mortgages. I'm going to get this link for you. And we're going to put that in the chat. And all right. We're going to put that here so you can have it. There it is. And we're also going to put it on Clubhouse so that you can have that as well. Okay. This is the article. I'm sending it to you so you can have it. All right. So let's bring this back up. Okay. It was during the Great Depression. Before the Great Depression, the single family home mortgage was a very different instrument. It goes on to explain that it was an interest only loan. You had to have like 50 to 80% down. And the term could be anywhere from 1 year to 3 years to 5 years to 10 years. Okay. So whatever the term was, you were paying interest only for that term. And then at the end of the term, you would owe what they called back then a bullet payment, or what we call today a balloon payment. You did not pay off the loan. Therefore, at the end of your term, you had to either pay off the loan or refinance the loan. And that's how mortgages worked back then. When the stock market crashed and it affected the whole world, then people didn't lose their properties because they couldn't make the payment. They lost their properties because at the end of their term, they couldn't make the balloon payment, and the banks were no longer interested in renewing your loan or refinancing the loan. They said, pay off the loan now. And if you can't, we're going to sell the property to get the rest of our money. Because of the depression, property values dropped drastically, and the lenders were afraid they weren't going to get their principal back. Even though you've already given them thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars in interest. And in some cases, you've already given them more interest than the money you borrowed. They didn't care. They said, well, you still owe the principal and we want it. And if the property values drop, then we're at risk of losing it. So we're not going to renew the loan. So you got to pay us off right now, or we're going to take your property and sell it before the property values drop even further. And a lot of people lost their homes. Now, when FDR became a president, they came in with a New Deal, and they were going to pull us out of the Great Depression. And part of that was how to get the economy moving again. And then they came up with the Homeowners Loan Corporation, the HOLC, which then bought up a bunch of these mortgages. When they bought these mortgages, they reissued them to the owners with a 20-year amortized mortgage, which eliminated balloon payments. Because by the time you were done with the 20-year payment, you would owe nothing, instead of the balloon payment system they had before the Depression. Okay? That's how that happened. That's what was going on. If you have a question about this, raise your hand, come to the stage, and we'll talk about it. Okay? So this was the first 20-year fully amortized mortgage, but no one understood how it worked except people in the industry. And why? Here's what's beginning to happen. The government bought up these mortgages, spending tax dollars on these mortgages. So what had to happen is they created what's called the secondary mortgage market, the secondary market, and opened it up to investors to purchase this loan paper from the government, so the government can get their money back. So now the investors own the mortgage, not the government. And the investors had three things that they were concerned about. The first thing that they were concerned about was default. What if these people default? And then this is where, in the same year, the government took on mortgage insurance. So the people who had the mortgage had to pay mortgage insurance. So if they defaulted, the people who had their instruments, they bought the paper, they bought their mortgage loans, they could get paid. So they had mortgage insurance. The next thing that they were concerned about was interest rates either rising or falling. If the interest rates fall, because what they wanted was a loan So they were concerned about, in this article, they said, I want to make sure I can get my scheduled interest payments. That's how they put it in the article. I want to get my scheduled interest payments, meaning I want to get 20 years of interest payments. And the interest was like 5 or 6% back then, when the best anybody else was doing was like 4. Okay. Now, so the investor says, okay, you solved one problem for me. That mortgage insurance solves that problem. What's the second? How do I get my scheduled interest payments? We're not going to teach the people how this works. Now, that's not in the article, but nowhere in the article does it say that they're actually teaching the consumer how an amortized loan actually works. So that the investor, if you're an investor, all right, if you're an investor and you're going to get these long-term 20-year payments, you want to make sure that I'm investing to make money. I'm not investing to help homeowners. I'm investing to make money. And so if I can invest, I want to make these long-term, I want to get my interest money long-term. But if you teach them, if you're teaching the people that they can take their 20-year mortgage and pay it off in 5, when I was looking to get that money for 20, it's not as attractive to the investors anymore. You can't know how it works. You can't know how it works, because once you know how it works, the system starts to fall apart. It's because now your money that you're paying towards interest is the very fuel that makes this whole mortgage industry run. Your interest money. That's why how a loan actually works is not being taught in schools today. That's the conclusions that we have to come, that are drawn from this thing. No matter how much you read on the subject, people are making money. The people who sell you the mortgage, they make money on the fees, and then they turn around and sell that mortgage at a premium. They're actually selling it to investors for more than what they have into it. They got their fees for putting the mortgage package together for you. You paid them fees on that mortgage. Then the mortgage company, your bank, whoever, or credit union sells that on the secondary market at a premium so that they can get their money back plus a profit. And now the investor says, now to get my money back, I need to keep you in the loan for a while. Now, what happens then? Here is a whole, listen, I need you to see this. There are thousands of articles out there, thousands of articles like this: prepayment risk and the duration of default-free mortgage-backed securities. So the next thing that people were concerned about was prepayment. I got at least 2 articles here. I got this article and this article. Macroeconomic driven prepayment risk and the valuation of mortgage-backed securities. Listen, there are tons of articles on this subject, all right? On what the very thing that the investors were afraid of is that you learning how to prepay a loan so that they don't get their money. Ladies and gentlemen, are you getting your house so that you can make sure investors can make money? Yes or no? Are you getting in your mortgage so that investors can make all the money that they can make off of you and drain your net worth, take money out of being able to set up an inheritance for your children? That money is going to investors because you've never been taught how this works. Steve Mack says absolutely not. April says no. Okay. Even Ian Pedley online is saying he wants to know if I have the amortization formula available. Yeah. It's listen, it's as easy as this, Ian. All right. Let's bring up the formula. All right. And amortization formula. All right. There we go. Boom. Here's the amortization formula. That's it. It's now I was never really good at math. But what this says is that if you use this formula on a certain amount of money, and you say, okay, this is for 30, and use it and put it out there for 30 years. If you put that number in, that is 360 months, okay, and one of these letters, and the interest rate in one of these letters, all right, then it will figure out for you on the very first payment how much money goes to principal and how much money goes to interest. And what it does is that this formula takes your interest rate and divides it by 12, and then takes 1/12 of your interest rate and multiplies it by the unpaid balance 360 times. Or once you learn how it works, we can show you how to get it down to 90 times or 87 times or 80 times that they can get to charge you. They don't have to charge you 360 times. And this is what real estate investors don't want you to know. These are the conclusions. So if you want to know how this works, how it works for you, do you all want to know if you have mortgages, student loans, credit cards, car loans? If you want to know how to take control of your loans, to give the money back that you owe in such a way that you take control so that you don't have to pay the interest, put a number 9 in the chat. Put a number 9 in the chat, and I will go over how you don't have to pay the bank all of that money. Put a number 9 in the chat right now. Okay? Put a number 9 in the chat. We will go over how you don't have to do that. How would you like, I see some 9s coming in. How would you like to know the month, day, and year you could be debt free because you can know how much interest you could save? I'm going to put a new link at the top. All right. We're going to put a new link at the top. We're going to put up ice10k.com. New link at the top. Okay. So let's go ahead and change this out. All right. Get rid of that. ICE, that stands for Interest Cancellation Expert. ICE, the number 10, the letter K.com. There it is. If you click on that link, you can get a savings and earnings report today. Well, within 48 hours. Every time we do a show like this, we get inundated with requests, and sometimes it takes us 2 days to get back to you. Okay, but allow us to do that, please. Give us within 48 hours, someone will contact you if you go to ice10k.com and click on the link that says get a savings and earnings report. Okay. Once you get the savings and earnings report, you will know the month, day, and year you can be debt free and how much interest you can save on all of your debt. We do this by showing you how you can take control of your money with our program. Take control of how to pay the bank back in a way which makes it impossible for them to charge you all of this interest. Are you tired of paying this interest because real estate investors started this thing in 1936 and no one has taught us anything about it since then? How in the world did this thing happen? Listen, Ian Pedley in Australia, ladies and gentlemen, is a MLO, a mortgage loan originator. He gives mortgages to his clients, but in a different way. He actually tells them what they can do to pay less interest. He actually tells them. Can you imagine a loan officer telling people how they can pay less interest so he could be of service to his clients? And when he does that, guess what happens? He actually gets more business because he's there to help people, help them to understand that what most loan officers don't even know, he knows what they don't know because he watches this show. And on Friday, we're going to have some people in here talking about their experience with the P.I.L.L method. P.I.L.L stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. When you understand how this comes together in our cloud-based AI computing system that does all of the math for you and guides you to fantastic interest savings, because now you're taking control of your money, giving it back to the bank in a way that makes it impossible for them to charge you interest. It is amazing what it can do for you. And we're going to have some people in here on Friday talking about their experience. Friday, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. So here's what you do. When you click on this link, go ahead and put in your cell phone number. Put in your cell phone number. And when you put in your cell phone number, make sure there's no spaces. Okay? Make sure there's no spaces. If you're international, if you're outside the US, okay, contact us, give us a call on 256-886-1867. All right? And then our office will help you, because international numbers somehow, for some reason, are not getting the code. But if you're outside the US, call us at 256. I'm putting it in the chat. 256-886-1867. You can call us on WhatsApp. That's our office number. Let me go ahead and put it in the Clubhouse as well. 256-886-1867. If you're outside the US, give us a call, and our staff will put in the number, get the code for you, so that we can let you in, so that you can put in your number so that you can get a savings report as well. You can know the month, day, and year you could be debt free, and how much interest you could save. Most of our clients are out of debt in an average of 7 to 9 years and saving anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 or in interest or more that they never have to pay. Because they understand now, they understand that you don't have to pay that interest. The conclusion to this whole thing is, ladies and gentlemen, it was set up not just so that we could become homeowners, but that so people can make a lot of money off the interest you don't have to pay. And I guarantee you, the mortgage business will not collapse because you don't give them all that money in interest. I guarantee you it won't collapse. They're still making quite a bit of money. They're just not making 157% off of you. They're making something that should be decent, like 2 or 3%. Okay, let me give you. Let me put this down here. I'm going to give you an example of what can be done with an effective interest rate. All right, I'm putting this on the screen. All right, putting it on the screen. Okay, so this particular investor can pay off this loan in such a way, instead of paying $1,123,195 in interest, they're going to pay, by taking control of their loan, make it impossible for the bank to charge them all that interest. They're only going to pay back $231,468, which means their effective interest rate is 0.67%, less than 1%. How would you like it if you can get a loan? I mean, you don't even have to refinance to do this. What if you could get a loan from between 0.67% and like 1%? Just by knowing how this works. You don't have to refinance. You don't have to sacrifice lifestyle. You don't have to take your fun money from your family that you're using to create memories. You don't have to eat beans and rice 7 days a week. You don't have to cut up your credit cards to do this. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to cut out all of your fun to get this done. All you need to do is find out how not to pay all of this interest. These are the conclusions. The whole system is set up so even the education we're receiving, in fact, were just last week, just the last show, someone came on the show and tried to prove that these interest savings were not real. And I started getting phone calls from people who know the opposite. They're not real estate investors. They're teachers. They're police officers. They work for municipalities. They work in hospitals. They're doctors. They're nurses. They're lawyers. They have all kinds of backgrounds except finance. But because they got the education, they understand this better than some of the real estate investors that come into this room and push back. Because they've received education that says, don't pay the money this way, take your money and invest it. And so now they're teaching everybody else. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just kind of wondering, who do you think is behind that education? Who do you think is behind the education so that other people, even online, you can find it online, who it says, don't pay off your mortgage, take that money and invest it? Who do you think is behind teaching that? The conclusion to the whole matter is, let's keep the people in the dark so that they can keep on paying this mortgage interest at exorbitant prices. And we'll get some experts out there telling them, yeah, don't even bother paying off your mortgage. Take that money and invest it. Take the investment money and then pay off the mortgage with the investment money. Putting it in a system that's not guaranteed. Let me show you what a guarantee will do for you. Here's what a guarantee will do. If you're investing, do you want a guaranteed return, ladies and gentlemen? How about if I could guarantee that when you invest something, you're guaranteed to get what you are looking for? How would you like to get that guarantee? Steve Mack says yes. All right. Let's go back to how we can get a guaranteed return on your money. And I'm talking about a little bit of money. Okay. You don't need a lot of money. In this very mortgage here, if I make the very first mortgage payment, look at this. 141.15 goes to principal, $1,291 goes to interest. But if I give the bank this $142.06 early, I take control over when to pay the bank money. I can give them as little as $142.06 and save $1,290.76 in interest I never have to pay. Okay? If I do that, I can calculate my return on investment. I could take that money and put it in an investment that the real estate investors are talking about. I can make 16, 20, and if I'm really lucky, I can make maybe 25 or 30% on my money. But What could a real estate investor do with $142.06? What could they do with that? I mean, what could you do with $142.06? That's it. You got $142.06. Where would you invest it? And how long would it take you to get that return? Let me show you something here. Because I give the bank $142.06, when I choose to give it to them, it saves me $1,290.76. And if you do the math, if you don't know how to do the math, you can go to YouTube and say, if I invest this much and I either make or save this much, what is my return on investment? And YouTube can teach you. That's where I got it from. Okay. So my interest savings, $1,290.76 that I don't have to pay. If I divide it by what I'm investing, $142.06, divided by $142.06 equals 9.08. And when you watch it on YouTube, they'll tell you move the decimal point 2 places to the right. 1, 2. That is 908% return on your money, guaranteed. Whoa! In 1 month, right then and there. You pay that. You don't have to pay that interest ever. That's money you've saved that you never have to pay, because you took control of when to give the bank $142.06. If you take a look at how much you would give the bank in 1 year, okay, that's 900% return. So here's what I've got. I've got 15,000. This is in 1 year now. How much interest is involved in here? $15,438.53. Okay, that's how much money is flowing out of my household, plus the $1,755.31. A family that does not know how this works will pay, in the first year on this loan, will pay out $17,193.84. And out of that money, $15,000 of it will go towards interest. Out of $17,000 of their hard-earned dollars, $15,438 will go to interest. Does that seem unfair to you? Does that seem like it should be a crime? Do you think that should break some kind of usury laws, that when you work hard to pay $17,000 towards your mortgage, $15,000 of it goes to investors? You tell me. Everybody who disagrees with this does not understand how this works. Don't listen to them. And why you don't listen to them? Because they're not giving you the numbers to prove it. Why what they're saying should work. When you have, let me tell you about opportunity cost. They will tell you, if you take money and invest it, here's what you could earn with that money. But what they're not telling you is, by investing it in your mortgage when you want to, small amounts, they're not telling you what you could save. So how can you contrast how much you can make if you're not contrasting it with how much you can save? You have to have both sides of the equation to do an opportunity cost calculation. You have to know how much you can save. If you can't tell me how much I could save with the same amount of money, don't just talk to me about how much I can make with that money. It makes no sense, because you're not telling me the other part. All you're saying is, why pay off a 7% mortgage? That's all you're saying. Why pay off a 7% mortgage when you could take your money and do this? But they're not telling you, is what is the result of prepayments. What do you get out of a prepayment? So I have $17,000 that I could pay. All right. But out of that, I'm going to, out of that $17,000, I'm going to, if I prepay $1,755.31, okay, I'm going to save $14,157.22. What if I did that? Let's do the math. Okay, let's do the math on if I prepay that, what I would save. Okay, and let's see the math on that. So we're going to put in 14,000, 157.22. I'm going to divide it by what I could invest all at one time. I'm going to divide it by this, $1,700. $1,755.31. That's, I moved the decimal point 2 places to the right. That's an 806% return on my money. Guaranteed. If you want to make this kind of money, why would anybody listen to a real estate investor who says, take your $1,700, invest it over here, and make 16, 20, or 30% on it sometime in the future? Or you can take $1,700 and save yourself $14,000 right now that you never have to pay. That calculates to over 800% return on your money. Why would anybody not do that with such a small amount of money? Hi, Sean. How you doing today? You want to come to the stage? Raise your hand. I'll invite you. You can come up if you like. Okay. Come on up here, sir. All right, let's invite him. There we go. How you doing, Sean?
There we go. I'm doing well, Ice. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. What we're doing here is looking at, and you're a real estate investor, right?
Yes, I'm an investor and a loan broker.
And a loan broker. Okay. So by being a loan broker, you make money as a loan broker. You make a fee for establishing loans for people, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I have also established a practice now where I am purchasing your book and giving it away to everyone who closes a loan with me and explaining to them not to be afraid of the rates, that there is a way to utilize them to their advantage. And it seems to really make them happy.
Wow. 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 Okay. So why would you do that? Oh, I see. Because you get a commission off the loan. So if they save money, it doesn't mess with your commission, does it?
Doesn't mess with my commission at all. And in fact, it helps with the referrals and them coming back to me for repeat business. So I think that a lot of times when we're having conversations about the rates, people are fearful and they're anxious, and knowing that there is a book out there that can help them cancel that interest and cut the mortgage from 30 to 10 years and help them alleviate a lot of the interest costs associated with borrowing that money, it kind of makes them feel at ease again, knowing that they have the book coming. And I haven't even really gotten into detail with what the book entails, and they're still super excited and glad to have it. It's sort of like that resource that puts an S on their chest.
So, Sean, listen, would you also do something else for me when you talk to the clients? Send them over to the YouTube channel so they can watch these videos.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Folks,
I
listen.
submitted for an affiliate link to ICE. I need you to get back to me on now. I need my little piece.
Oh, well, listen. Okay. So listen, this is all the education you need on this. Okay. You ready? Because
Yes,
so many
sir.
people fill that out. So many people fill out to become an affiliate. All right. But 90% will never do anything. So we can't call everybody. We're actually setting up where we're going to do a coaching for everybody, but it's going to come down to this, Sean. If you find a person who is tired of not understanding this, you find a person that wants to do better. We're not trying to convince people to change how they think. All right, Sean? So if you find somebody who wants to pay off the loan faster and cheaper, okay, then send them over to the YouTube channel. Let them, the P.I.L.L Method YouTube channel, let them watch some of those videos. Then follow up with them in 2 days. How hard is that? Call them back no more than 48 hours later. Call them back. Say, do you want to know more? And if they say yes, go to ice10k.
Then get the book.
Go to ice10k.com, right? And then click on the link that says refer a friend. Now you're referring them to us. You fill that out, okay? Go to ice10k.com and click out the link that says refer a friend, fill it out, and then put your name and your phone number in the space where it says who referred them. Because you're in our system, now that person is now coded to you. When they become a client, we pay you $300. You don't have to sell it. You don't have to do anything except point them to watch some videos and call them 2 days later.
Amen.
Sean, how easy is that?
Easy as brushing my teeth blindfolded.
Okay. So if you can send us 2 people in the same month that become clients, guess what? That second one we'll pay you $400 for. That's a total of $700 already. If you send us a third
How much once I get up to 10?
You want to go straight to 10. All right. Well, listen, the 5th one is worth $1,200. And everyone after that in the same month is worth $1,200.
Okay. So anything after 5 is 1,200 each or 1,200 total?
1,200 each.
Oh boy.
But that's in the same month. Next month it starts over.
I understand.
Okay. So but if you could do anywhere from 300
5 plus.
Right. So if you do just 5 in 1 month, that's a total of $3,000.
Amen.
Okay.
Especially if it's 3,000 on top of the commission that I already made, and I get that 3,000 for doing nothing but referring the book and referring them to your course. I certainly can appreciate that.
Yeah.
For me, it was also just them having a parting gift or getting something back from me once a loan closed. And I thought that was a thoughtful way to do that and give them something that they could utilize to help with the fees associated with the loan that I just got them.
Most definitely, sir. Most definitely. And people are beginning to see this. And we're getting ready to close this show out. This was our conclusion to the whole matter of understanding how loans got started in the USA, how amortized loans got started in 1936. The first 30-year loan was in 1948. And barely a shred of any education is out there for the consumer not to pay all of this interest. In fact, what you said was true. You can actually get, at a higher interest rate, you can actually take better control of your mortgage than at a lower interest rate. So don't let the higher interest rates scare you. When you explain that to your clients, how does that make them feel? Sean?
At ease, like I said, it's usually a situation where they're going through the motions and asking a bunch of questions, and most of them have to do with the rate and what do they do if it changes and so on and so forth. We try to talk them into fixed mortgages over 30 years, but a lot of times in the initial loan, they're doing hard money for short term and they want to be able to refinance out of it. And they're certainly worried about the rates of either. And once we go through the conversation about the interest cancellation method, it seems like all of the anxiety goes away and they feel more comfortable about the fact that they can handle it once I explain what it is and what it will teach them.
Fantastic. So here's what we're going to do, folks. I've got another loan officer from Australia on here, and he says in June in Australia, there was 26.6 billion loans written. All right. 24.6 billion dollars in loans written. If I could help say 5%, it's a drop in the ocean. Banks wouldn't worry a bit at all. Can you imagine that? Because we're helping a lot of people who want to learn. And he also goes on to say here, says they are these loans are the worst. They think they know and they don't. The loan officers and the real estate investors, they think they know, but they don't know. They think they know, but they don't know. And Jeremiah Sams says here on YouTube, can your system handle multiple accounts at one time? Most definitely. Any number of mortgages you have, we can handle. Any number of mortgages you can have, we can handle. In fact, we're going to go over some of that on Friday. When we come back here on Friday, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully, we'll have several people in here who've actually experienced and learned interest cancellation techniques, how to optimize the use of their money, how to leverage correctly, how to figure out what is the least amount of money to pay towards their mortgage to kill the maximum amount of interest. You don't need a lot of money. You just need to understand how it affects you by not giving the bank that money. Once you understand it, now you'll know why it's not being taught, because investors won't make as much money. So
not only, I think it's crazy to think about this, right? We've been talking about $1.27 trillion worth of mortgages coming due within the next couple of years that need to be refinanced. Same scenario. If we put this information into their hands, we cut that $1 trillion down to a few hundred billion, and everybody waiting on the rest of that money ends up stuck with the fact that they're not going to get it. It just vanished in the thin air. I think about how incredible that would be.
Listen, folks, let me tell you something already. With the information that's out there, okay? Here's some math. I'm putting it on the screen right now. Okay? Here's what these real estate investors are doing. Okay? I'm introducing you to some of the math that I got the wrong thing up. Okay? Here we go. Here it is. Look at this. This is math that they perform on the mortgage-backed securities that they own, and they're predicting how much money they are going to lose during the time out of that mortgage. See, mortgage-backed security are mortgages that are packaged together. And they're doing the math and says, okay, how much am I losing per year on these loans due to prepayment? This math, look, it is crazy the amount of math that they do to figure this whole thing out. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, if you listen to the real estate investors and say it's not real money that's being saved, then why are real estate investors going through all of this to figure out how much money they're losing to see if they're still going to invest in mortgage-backed securities? If it's not real money that you're saving, why are they doing this math? They see it as real money. You should see it as real money too. That's what we're talking about,
They
ladies and gentlemen.
definitely see it as real money if they can create entire securities instruments off of it. I want everyone in the room, when they get a chance, to Google collateralized mortgage obligations, a CMO. That is the security that he's talking about, that they utilize to take the interest off these mortgages, strip them of that interest, and place them into a security that's sold onto the open market to investors. That way, they get to participate, paid in the interest without the owner of that interest waiting on it. They get kind of to sell stock or shares in it to the public so that they don't have to wait on the money from the interest over time. It's a crazy thing, but it's also what took down our economy and the economy of several countries around the world.
Tell us what CMO stands for one more time slowly.
Collateralized mortgage obligations.
Oh my goodness. Listen, folks, all of that means something to people who are in the business. It means very little to us when we see these things, because then we'll glouse right over it. But if we understood it, we would be able to see how much money is being made off of the fact that we don't understand how this mortgage stuff works and how much money they're taking out in the first few years. Okay? It is crazy money. The way a mortgage company takes advantage of situations is actually, this is the last thing I'm going to show you. Okay? I'm going to show you something that most people are not aware of. Okay? We're going to duplicate this tab, duplicate the tab again, duplicate the tab one more time. Okay? So I've got a 30-year loan here. Okay? On this next one, I'm going to put in a 25-year loan. Okay? Which is 300 months. So we're going to do that and calculate that. On this one, we're going to put in a 20-year loan. That's 240 months. Figure out that the same amount, same interest rate. Okay? And we're going to do this. We're going to give, now this one is a 15-year loan. That's 180 payments, 180. Okay, 180. Boom. All right. Now I want you to see something. Most people, so it's important that you think you're saving money on these loans. It's important that you think you're saving so that the real estate investors continue to make money on these loans. Are you ready? If you have a 30-year loan, okay, in the first month, how much interest do you pay? $1,291.67. If you have a 25-year loan, how much interest do you pay in the first month? Oh, $1,291.67. If you have a 20-year loan, how much interest do you pay in the very first month? $1,291.67. If you have a 15-year loan, how much interest do you pay in the first month? The exact same thing on all 1, 2, 3, 4 loans. $1,291.67. Let's look and see how much interest you pay in the first 5 years on these loans. It's important that you think you're saving money. Okay, that's 60 months, ladies and gentlemen, on a 30-year loan, $200,000 at 7.75% on a 30-year loan. In the first 5 years, you pay it down by $10,000, but look how much interest you pay: $75,665.01. $75,665.01. How much interest do you pay on the the 25-year loan in 60 months or 5 years? $74,653. Oh, versus $75,665. $74,653, about $1,000 difference. How about, well, it's got to be a lot different on, that was the 25-year loan. Let's take a look at the 20-year loan. That's 240 months. In the first 5 years, $72,900. It's $72,900, $74,650, $75,665. And the 15-year loan, oh my gosh. In the first 5 years, you're still paying $69,818.52. Did you think that in the first 5 years on these loans, you're paying virtually the same amount of interest? My. What do you all think about that? Has anybody ever showed you this as to why real estate investors want to be in this game? Because no matter how much, whatever your loan product is, they're still going to make about $70,000 in the first 5 years on your loan, no matter if it's a 30, if it's a 25, if it's a 20, or if it's a 15. They don't care. They just need you to think you're saving money. Ladies and gentlemen, that is.
They gonna make it on.
Go ahead.
They gonna make it on their loan, Don, because I know you. I'm not paying that.
You're not gonna pay that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to save money, you don't want to pay. Listen, don't fall for the tricks. 15-year loan, 20-year loan, 25. Don't fall for the tricks. Know the truth of the matter. And if you want to cut your interest costs by 75%, save $150,000 to $200,000 in interest you never have to pay off all of your debt in about 7 years, then go to ice10k.com. We're closing it out today. We're going to come back here on Friday, though, where we can hear from people who have been on the P.I.L.L method for a while and understand how it works. And let's listen to their stories on Friday, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. And if you can't be here live, then listen to the replays. Also, if you're listening to this and you're a P.I.L.L method client, sign up for Clubhouse. All right. Sign up for Clubhouse and come on and speak to us. If you can't speak to us and you still want to participate, make sure you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Either Facebook or YouTube. Get on Facebook or YouTube, and then you can type in your testimony. Okay. Because some of you like to, I had one guy tell me he was sitting at work listening to us. Okay. I had another guy he's a pianist for a church on Sundays. And while he's playing, he's listening to the P.I.L.L method in his ear during church service. I shouldn't have told him that. I shouldn't have told on him.
I was about to say, you finna get him in trouble. He ain't paying near bit of attention to the pastor.
Anyway, folks, that's what's going on. So come back on Friday, either to participate one way or the other by listening in, hearing the stories, or telling your particular mortgage and loan stories about from understanding the education and the technology provided by the P.I.L.L method. And so if you want to know how this affects you, go to ice10k.com. Go to ice10k.com. Get a savings and earnings report. All right. Put your phone number in, no spaces. Get it verified. All right. And then once it's verified, click on I want to save. Yes, I want to save, and put in your information to the financial form that comes up. And within 48 hours, someone from my office will give you a call to confirm that information and prepare for you a savings report. And with that savings report, you will have the opportunity to get a consultation with us and see if this is something you want to do. Take that 150, that 200,000, that $300,000 in interest you don't have to pay the bank, and start investing it in
There's
your
nothing
family.
to see. Either you want the money or you want to be broke.
Come on, Sean. Don't be so hard.
I feel like I got an inside secret. I swear, I can't fathom how hearing this information, you don't get it. It's almost like a light bulb is walking over my head as I walk down the hallway.
We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. So, folks, let's do that. And Sean, you also brought up the fact that not only can you do all this, but you mentioned my book as well. Let's put that on the screen. Go to ice10k.com and order the book today. This book, Sean is giving away to his clients. You can get that same book that Sean gives away to his clients. It is the only book on Amazon that covers this subject out of 33 million titles. You would think somebody else would be attacking the amortization schedule in a way that you could save money. But this is the only book that even begins to give you any advice. Now, it's not an ABC 1, 2, 3. It does lead you to the tools that you need, and it starts to get you to thinking about your loans in a different way. But it's not an ABC 1, 2, 3. It's not, there's no prescription in there or what to do exactly, because each person who reads the book is an individual. And we prepare a program that is uniquely your own. You can't use the same program for
On
you.
two people, right? Because it's predicated on the person and the loan, and each loan circumstances, each loan's rates are different. So it's all going to pan out differently for each person individually. But the key is, and I think the difference between the titles that are on Amazon and what we're learning here is that I don't just have to make a double payment and throw caution to the wind. I can find out exactly on the amortization schedule how much my principal payments are and double those, basically erasing the interest. I'm not going to go make a double payment and pay them double interest and pay as little as possible to principal, which is what 90% of the people who teach this method teach. I'm going to find out from ICE exactly how much it's going to take for me to erase those payments. And I'm going to pay only that. And I'm going to, like a sharpshooter, go after those payments each month and erase the amortization schedule like it's evaporating in the thin air. And when I'm done, I'll be left with 8 to 10 years worth of payments that brought me to a situation where I now own this property free and clear and can wield it like the weapon it is.
Come on, Sean. I love it. I love it. Listen, we're going to hear more stories like that. Sean, I want you to come back here on Friday as well and tell your stories about how you're helping your clients. We just want to hear from people who are actually believers in interest cancellation and see how that has helped. I want to thank everybody for being here today. If you have a red ticket, go ahead and cash that red ticket in. Click on the link above that says P.I.L.L Method and join our wait list, and I will let you in a little bit later. Also follow me and follow the folks on the stage. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. And I also want you to hear, Sean, I don't want to forget the fact that we talked about becoming an affiliate as well. Okay.
That's right.
I need your help. I cannot talk to everybody. Listen, these videos go out all over the world. I still can't talk to everybody, even though people watch them at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning while I'm sleeping. I still can't talk to everybody, even with YouTube and Facebook. I need your help. Start showing other people how they can watch these videos and benefit from this education and learn how to share their information with us so that not only can we help them, but we can help you with your bottom line. And you could take some of that extra money and apply it to principal if you wanted to. We love helping people all the way around.
That's right.
Okay. So
get it done.
Yes. So listen, other people want you to go out and share the fact that you bought this thing or that thing, and they're not paying you a dime to build their business. That's not how we operate here. You share this with other people, fill out a card, lock it into yourselves, and you can make anywhere from $300 to $3,000 a month just by sharing. That's it. Okay. No recruiting, no, trying to get other people to do anything. You alone by yourself can make between $300 and $3,000 a month just by sharing this, the YouTube videos with other people. So folks, that's it for today. See you back here on Friday. We're going to hear from Dr. Eric Thomas, and we're going to close the show out. I don't see, let me go back through and see if there's any other comments or questions. Nope, no more questions. That's it for today. Thank you very much. And I want to also thank Kurt Nugent, who is our producer and who makes sure that gets everything on the screen for you. So be here on Friday. Don't miss it. Let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas. Oh, Kurt, you can ready to say something?
No, man, I was just agreeing with you, brother. I can't wait for Friday. Looking forward to share my story as well in terms of how I use the P.I.L.L method, how we use the P.I.L.L method in our house as our opportunity cost calculator. So, man, looking forward to Friday, man. Great show today. I'm hoping that everybody was able to kind of get their questions answered. Make sure you mark that calendar for Friday, y'all. We're gonna have a good time.
All right.
And make sure you share that info and tell your folks about Friday. Pull some people in.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right, folks, let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas. We'll see you guys on Friday. Bye-bye.
Listen to me, y'all. One of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down from my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.